Okay, so today we're going to be fractal burning this serving board. The way I envision it is you could use this as a charcuterie, or I've also made this accompanying balance for a wine bottle. So you could put a bottle of wine here and a couple of glasses and bring them out as well. But what the focus is going to be on fractal burning this particular piece. And I'm thinking we're going to want to have some horizontals here that just kind of run the length and maybe not even meet in the middle, just kind of grow from two different center points outward. I like to watch movies while I do this, so I'm going to continue the one I've been watching, which tonight, because it's Christmas time, tomorrow's Christmas Eve, Die Hard. I'll keep it low enough so I can still talk. So, actually, I probably shouldn't have that on the background. So, first thing you need in order to do any kind of fractal burning is your rig. Mine is made out of a transformer for a neon light. Let me just unwrap it here. I'll show you all the components. So it's pretty straightforward. You got a box with the cord. First thing I did was label off so that I knew which was which, because these look identical otherwise. And you definitely want to buy one that has a switch already built in, unless you plan to have a switch or a foot activated switch, especially if you're working with higher amperage. This puts out 10,000 volts, but only about, 30 milliamps. So it could hurt you, but chances are this won't kill you. But I can tell you from first-hand experience that you will notice if you get jolted. So I'm just going to set this up, get us plugged in, and then we'll treat the wood for... Okay. Okay, so in order for this process to work, you need to have a saline-rich solution that coats the wood, particularly in the areas that you're going to be applying the fractal burning to. Now, there is a side effect, and that is that the saline solution, and I like to use baking soda instead of salt, because it's just a little bit easier to mix in, and it's more soluble. And don't be afraid of having an over-rich mix, because less won't work, and water does have a maximum saturation point for salt, so whatever you don't mix in will just fall to the bottom anyway. So you just want to make sure that you have the saltiest water possible, and I use a sponge brush applicator. Now in this particular case, because I've pre-routed this, I don't want to get water down in this groove, because this salt water will yellow the top of the wood, the surface of the wood. So I'm just going to paint this on. And again, I'm being a little more delicate than I would if this were just a flat piece of wood that we were treating. So you definitely want to make sure that there's a good amount of moisture there, because ultimately that's what's going to conduct the electricity through the board. So maybe a lighter coat in the areas that you don't plan to do too much of the gouging with the electricity in, but definitely that the center spline that I want to make sure I hit. So we're just going to let that soak in for just a minute, and then I'm thinking what we'll do is we'll start at this end, and you know, some people like to start them really far apart, but because we have such a narrow board, and I want to make sure that these shocks don't extend into this lower area, even though I haven't treated it with the water, it still could go there. I want to somewhat control what I'm doing. So the closer together you keep your leads, the better. Another thing I want to do quickly is measure the total length of the piece of wood that I have here. This is 27 3/4 inches. So my center mark is going to be at 13 and more. Half of 3/4 is 1 1/2 quarters, so that'll be 3/8. Or, yeah. So 13 1 2 3/8. This is my center point. I'm just gonna mark that and double check my arithmetic. I think it's actually more like here. So if I get 13 3/8, no, that was not correct. F of 20. Oh, plus 1/2 inch. That's fine. Boop. Boom. Yeah, now we're good. And we don't have to worry about the pencil marks because those are going to get sanded away later when we're prepping the wood for finishing. But now knowing where our center point is will give us a good frame of reference, so as we're trying to create balance in the piece, we're able to do so. All right, here we go. Now, because this is a fairly damp surface, it may not, there you go, take effect immediately. And I want to make sure that I manipulate the electricity the way that I want it to, so that it goes in the direction and flow that we're looking for to give us the look that we want. And so you can see I'm able to manipulate the electricity to kind of make it grow the way I want it to. And once we create the initial pattern, I can go back over this and reinforce the parts that we want to. So as you can see, it's kind of jumping all over the place with this particular type of wood. So I'm keeping the leads very close together so I don't want to draw what happens because that takes away an element of the natural flow of things, but I definitely want to guide things so I can maintain balance. That looks good so far. So you notice it's no longer live because there's a safety circuit inside. So that's actually a good safety mechanism. That way you don't accidentally electrocute yourself. But you can see we've got ourselves a pretty decent pattern. It's balanced from left to right. I like the distance. Started about a ½ inch from the center, so I'm going to do the same over on this side, but I'm going to give myself a little bit of room. I can always close that gap later. And then we'll go back and we'll reinforce these patterns. So by dragging the lead back across the path you've already taken, you'll see how we can then reinforce that burn. And I don't have my air compressor going, but if I were to blow it with the air gun, you can see how even with my breath, how it smolders. Now, I don't want this side to be the heaviest. I want this side to be the heaviest. So, and I'd like a little more going on around here. Okay. Oh man, it is what they say. Truth really does, smoke really does follow ugly. All right, now I'm gonna work on reinforcing this, and I'll come on back in a bit.